Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Is that Jose?
Yes, it is.
Yay. Great. Francis, you were locked in. Yes. So when we get to that point, I guess, I'll make it.
You bet.
We do have water, if anyone would like water. I did attempt to bring you some candies, however they fell on the floor. 3 seconds over. The dish also broke, so.
So the agenda for the next meeting will include the dish.
Yes. What's the name of the Japanese art?
You know, yeah.
I'm gonna Google it.
It's
No,
it's intentionally done so that you can actually see the repair. It's done in a different color.
It's done with gold.
Oftentimes, yes.
Gold. Yes. It's called kintsugi.
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi, right? I actually have actually repaired a dish like that using that idea. It's very therapeutic. All right, ready to get started. So our meeting is, please come to order. Welcome to everybody who's here and anyone, I think Jose, you're on the line, I'm not sure if anyone else is. But we are supposed to have a couple of people on the line. So welcome to everyone who's here. And if anyone is here from the public, if we'd like to ask if you could please sign in to today's meeting, there's a sign-in sheet here with us. And I'm really excited that you're all here. This is where we are housed, the Civic Engagement Commission has the desks in this building and on this floor and down the hallway. It's not such a great space for a large public meeting, but it's great when we don't have any other place, which happened today. We weren't able to find a room. So we are being live streamed, and we also have captioning today. We also have Spanish interpreters. If anyone needs interpreters, please do let us know. And we are supposed to have public comment in the last half hour. The Dramatists Guild of America asked to offer comment today, so they will arrive. So just to go through, we have a lot of internal business to talk through today. So I'm going to start with just updating you on where things are with the commission. And also take you through the bylaws and program updates, but first we need to review and approve the minutes. I'm also going to pass around an attendance sheet for everyone to sign in. So,
Hi Sarah and all. I just dialed in.
hi, Janetta. Who is
Yeah,
that?
hi, I just dialed in. Yep.
Okay.
Now, if we find my number and motion to approve the minutes.
Yes. Now is a good time to do that. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So, minutes. Oh, all in favor of approving the minutes.
General consensus.
Okay, the minutes are approved. So turning next to just the hiring updates, would love to introduce you to folks who are here. You know mostly everybody here. We onboarded Francis Rose, who's our Civic Engagement Support Specialist, and Guggan Carr, who's the Language Access and Community Board's advisor. Francis will be helping liaise with you, so I'll often include her on emails to you and help me keep track of things that way, and also helping us with creating like a language access plan. She has a lot of experience with language access. Did work for the DOE previously doing language access for private schools. So she'll be helping craft the CEC language access plans for our services and programs. And Guggen will be responsible for full site interpretation primarily as
Living
well as
Florentia?
helping the community. Who was that?
Who's there?
Who's on the line?
Vivian
I
Perez?
think Vivian's just called.
Oh, Lillian.
Lillian.
Okay, great. Welcome. So now we
I'm sorry,
have
could you go back over, I'm sorry, who's that or?
Guggen.
Guggen, thank you.
Yeah.
Her responsibilities are?
The Full Site Interpretation Program, the Language Access Advisory Committee, and sort of overseeing the community board work, though we do have more members of the team involved in that area as well. We previously met Lydia, who is our AmeriCorps service member working on community boards. She'll be working on a needs assessment of community boards and also a needs assessment of communities and their relationship to community boards. And Angie Toledo, who is our community engagement specialist, will be liaising with CBOs and partner organizations while also helping with the community board work. And we now have a team of 6 people. You also met Wendy, who's our senior advisor. She's doing a lot of work on participatory budgeting and other initiatives in this community. Helping with operations, she's coming to us from Mox, so has experience with procurement, contracting, leading on her for that. Any questions?
Just, is there a place where the org chart is laid out, either online or some other way?
We can share it with you.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
it's been a work in progress.
Sure.
As we're, and hopefully we would like to continue to expand, but we will certainly share with you the version we're at now.
That would be great.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see all these new faces and so forth. It would be great to know them by name and appreciate what they do.
Yeah, and before, just a few months ago, if you recall, it was only me.
It was
So it's really exciting that now we're a team of 6 and I actually have people around me that I can interact with and they can help each other, support each other. And it's nice to also be able to delegate work as we're going along. Very exciting. I wanted to check on just the email issue before we go into the bylaws. Does everyone now have access to their emails, their CEC emails?
I still prefer my Gmail. I have difficulty with the office.
Yeah, I mean, I've been emailing everyone's personal email plus their CEC email, but I think just for your own privacy and protection, it's probably better if you're emailing me to email through your CEC account.
Protocol.
Yeah.
I agree and do my best with that. The problem is that the CEC email account does not marry up with Gmail on a phone. So
Yes.
at least with my core skills in that area. So if I'm replying to you, it may end up coming through a different email address because you copied a separate email address. Whenever I'm initiating, I do my best to use the account given. But that's just a practical reality that if you're going to catch me in between times I'm at a desk, you're going to hear from different.
Yeah, completely understand, and the only thing that is, it's really meant to help you, and whatever is easier for you, obviously, you'll have to. I did ask about.
Put your phone on.
Hi, it's Linda. Sorry. I did ask Jewett about how to sort of merge these accounts, like if you want to have your email coming into your personal account from the CEC. So I'm not sure what they, I have to follow up with that. Okay, so the next big thing is to look through the bylaws. There were a bunch of things that we talked about last month, sorry. And the version that I'm putting forth before you, there were things that we talked about in the last meetings that, based on input from the law department, I actually created a separate handout with those particular additions that you wanted to see if we really want them in there. So this version that you're looking at doesn't have these sections in there. And we'll talk about why we're treating them on a separate handout as we go through it. So I thought we'd just go through it from the beginning, and we will talk through the questions that people had raised and the suggestions from you all and responses from law. If that's okay with everyone. Okay, the first thing I wanted to point to in the purpose and powers, the only addition that's there is that Chuck had suggested we add something about the language access and pool sites, because that's also from the charter, and so I put that little language in there, improving language access for LETV or first or pool site contributors. So that's the change in that. And then the next section that we spoke about was under membership. We had a good conversation about the importance of attendance for each meetings, and I think some people wanted to make attendance, create some kind of guidance about the minimum number of meetings that someone could miss before they got kind of a warning or notice or potentially considered for leaving the commission. So we had added, or I had asked, Mark had suggested some language, which is on this handout, which initially,
There's 3 different colors, what do they indicate?
it's just highlighting, I'm sorry.
But there's no difference?
There's
Okay.
no, yeah,
Actually,
there is a little bit. So in section 2, on the suggestion, Mark had put forward a suggestion that if somebody was not physically present at 3 meetings, or fails to be 3 regular meetings, or fails to be physically present a total of 5 meetings in any 12-month period, the chair should provide written notice of such members' attendance to the appointing authority. That was a suggestion that Mark had made.
Actually, somebody else around the table made it, and I recorded it.
Oh, got
Drafted
it.
for you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you. So the law department thought that that would really sort of damage interpersonal relationships, and thought it was better if we developed, kind of an internal process, but didn't go to the appointing authority, right? If we really want to have something in here about attendance, they thought we needed to come up with another way to deal with it, rather than go to the appointing authority. So, they said, well, you should just talk to the person, whoever's missing meetings, and try to figure out what's going on and try to work it out. Like, just rely on interpersonal relationships and negotiation to sort this out. You don't need to have it in the bylaws. So it's really up to you all whether you want to specify attendance, what that looks like, and whether we should, what's the remedy for it. So as a suggestion, I said we could just schedule a discussion with the member to determine whether the member wishes to continue in their current role. Just notify them in writing, you've missed X number of meetings and we should talk. Part of the reason for why the law department is making its recommendations is it's trying to keep us from having to do a lot of tracking, and it's like trying to reduce bureaucracy, I guess. And who's going to keep track of attendance? How will these notifications be made? So they're trying to keep us lean and flexible and efficient. So I understand the general thrust and reasoning for why they're doing that. So it's really up to you whether you want to something on attendance in here and how.
Well, Well, I think it's necessary, just from being on various committees. And if you don't spell it out for attendance, the membership tend to be laxed about it. So I feel like it's a necessary evil. I don't think that it's necessary to talk to the person that has appointed them. But your suggestion, with sending them a letter and speaking to the member to find out if there's a situation, do they want to continue? Because sometimes people don't attend for various reasons. It may be, the job. It could be that they're moving, family. Something may have come up, and rather than let you know what's going on, they just don't show up. So in this instance, it gives them and you an out. And that's my feeling.
So my view is that, I think I'm in agreement with Donna, but I'll let Donna do the judge of that. My view is that the only thing to be accomplished in a bylaw with respect to attendance is an automatic kill. If it isn't an automatic elimination, then you end up with what you already have, which is the power of the chair and the power of the appointing authority to make whatever changes they are inclined to make. And I agree with a lot of Margaret there, that anything less than an automatic, non-discretionary, because the reality in all of the boards that I've served on all these years is that no one ever really wants to be the guy to say, I'm sorry you're off the board because you missed too many meetings. And so if it's not automatic, the reality of being in person is going to interfere with that, and it's just not going to happen. If that is not, so my view is, unless we're going to go all the way to a nuclear weapon, there's no sense pussyfooting around with some kind of interim range approach. And so if we're not going to, and it's a very harsh thing, I completely get that it's a harsh thing. I'm not certain, I wrote this because I was asked to, not because it was something I was burning to put into the bylaws. And so I guess my recommendation is that rather than be harsh right off the bat, eliminate it altogether from the bylaws at this time, see how it goes, and then this body can amend the bylaws going forward if this becomes a problem that occupies a lot of either your time or the commissioner's time. And if that ends up being the case, then we can revisit whether we need some sort of automatic process. That's my thought.
Right now, the way it stands is there's no call to action, other than you're going to say, Chuck, you've missed 3 meetings, you missed 5 meetings. I said, well, I explained it all. And it keeps on going on. So you have another discussion. So there's no call to action. There's nothing wrong with this. There's no reason to go to the appointer to keep it in-house, because again, like I said, the appointer just may not want to do anything. The only question is, if you want to do anything and you want to put any kind of call to action on it, there has to be a means, we don't have it in here, a means of removal. And if you want to make that internal, that for cause, you could give notice to a particular board member, and then they have 30 days for a hearing, and then they come to the hearing, they're allowed to participate, and then you need a 2/3 process. It is, but other than that, this whole phrase is meaningless. I mean, you can do this without this being in the bylaws.
I think you need to find out what the cause is of why they're not showing up.
Well, I've been on the board a long time, and it's a joke. I wear one now because we just got it, but a lot of people like to wear a pin. They like to say I'm a commissioner. They like to say I'm on the community board. They like to say I'm on this, on that. But like everybody knows, 90% of the work gets done by 10%. But you still have to attend and you still have to do the job. And if you're not, then it becomes frustrating over a period of time. We've had members on the community board that literally missed every meeting for the year. And the borough president had every right to remove them and didn't. And that person was worthless to the community board, other than the fact that, trust me, they went around and told everybody they were a member of the community board. So the question is, this does nothing other than the fact that you have this power already. Do you want to go and put into the bylaws removal for cause, whether it be for whatever reason? I mean, it could be for attendance, it could be for defamation, it could be meeting or whatever.
Yep.
So that's the only question.
We have removal, Chuck.
Do we, I didn't see it.
It's Article 4, Section 5 on the second page.
Resignation. Oh, removal 6.
Without cause at any time by a vote of
Okay.
10 members.
Then if that's the case, then
Which is a supermajority, it's not going to be a. So that gives the body an opportunity, it's just not automatic, so it does mean
Right.
that you have to actually put your hand up and say, I vote to eliminate Mark, and that's how it goes.
Well, if that's the case, then this paragraph for membership is fine. I mean, it's just gonna be a notice that the chair will be, coming to take it. But, there'll be a point where it's not gonna happen over a couple of meetings, it'll happen over a couple of years. Someone will say, why is this person still on our commission? And, that'll have to be an internal discussion. And there's nothing illegal about that, that's what part of your bylaw is. So if that's the case, I don't have a problem supporting it this way, leaving it within the internals. There's no reason it has to go back to the appointer, whether it be the borough president, the
I
controller.
think the only reason we put in about the appointer was if there is a dead kill of you missed 3 meetings, you're out, that the appointing
Needs to know.
body needs to know because
Right.
they're missing a commissioner.
But we don't have that.
But that wasn't the language that was in here.
Gotcha. Then I have no problem with the way it is right now. I didn't see the other part that Article 4.
But it's not actionable here, right? I mean,
No.
that's the problem. So, without teeth, I wonder why it would be in the bylaws, where the chair can adopt this rule as the chair and tell the commissioners that this is what you were expecting and hold people to it, but without the teeth of, you miss 3, you're out, or you miss 5, you're out, or whatever, it doesn't seem to me that it should be in the bylaw.
But now that you have the removal clause in there, this is your precedent to say that this is what took place.
Right.
And in 2019, we had this discussion. 2020, I contacted you again, and here we are now at the end of the year, and I'm going to make a motion to the board to ask for your resignation or to remove you. Now, there's paperwork, so that's what this provides.
So my thought was, the bylaw is more than Sarah. And the bylaw is a document for the group. So if Sarah's not there and we're not there, we're putting this in the executive's hands and not putting it in the bylaws. If the executive changed, this change may not go with them. So that was my only concern about having it in writing. So then, because it's a living document.
Why wouldn't it? If the chair changed next year, the next chair would have continuation.
But it's not written in the bylaws.
It's not in the current draft.
Right, but you're suggesting to put it in.
Yes, but they're suggesting we take it out.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just said based upon what we said,
Okay.
I support it.
Okay.
I think some people support.
Some people and some
adding it,
don't,
others
yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Can we just move the conversation forward? Since there is a section on removal already, can just preface what's here now and say that, add this pink section, I would make a change to, in any 12-month period to calendar years, that it's not like, if there's a marker. And then put it down as like this is the first instance where there'll be a discussion. So first shot is discussion with the chair on if the member continues to stay in the current role. Second is like probationary period and if there was removal by the entire commission. Does that seem right to folks? Just so that there's different action steps that lead to the final step that folks are hinting towards here, if that's what I'm saying.
I
Ralph wants teeth.
No, I don't. I either want real
out.
teeth,
Or nothing.
or I don't want, my concern is this, that the pink section as written actually limits the power of the chair rather than expanding it. Because in the event that these conditions occur, the chair would have to have a discussion, whatever that means. Would have to have a discussion, couldn't do it by email, for example. Would be substantially constrained from reporting this to the member before the 5th meeting, and so there is an argument, albeit a sophistic one, that this limits rather than expands the power of the chair. So if we're not going to have an automatic termination, then my vote is that the chair should have plenary authority to do whatever she or he is led to do in the event of a bad participation, and that the only way to remove somebody is the one that already exists in the bylaws, which is to get 10 people to agree.
By the way, I have to interrupt. The
Yeah.
removal is for an officer only, though. It has to be changed.
Oops. Well, let's fix that.
Well, let's stay with this for a sec.
But just to
So
let you know, we'll go
Thank
back
you.
to
the
it.
removal is for an officer. Okay. So we're
Not a
all
member,
for
not a
this
Not
is
an
here.
act, right, we'll get to that, just to be clear.
Then what I would propose is to take removal in section 5 and make that the new section 2 and replace the word officer with the word member. And then,
I think the issue here is also that the way that you all got here is through an appointing authority. So I think part of the question is, how does that appointing authority continue to have a say in your ongoing presence here? And
Well, the community boards work the same way. The borough president appoints, but many bylaws allow the membership to remove on their own.
and every community board reports to the borough president the attendance of every member every year, not just the members who have had a spotty record.
Right. So there's a double, I understand what you're saying, so
Yeah.
basically, if it's removed, you have to let the appointer know that the person was removed and they'll reappoint, but other than that, the board, the commission still has the ability to take matters into their own hands.
Well, I guess that actually raises an interesting duly question of duly. If I'm duly appointed by, in my case, the borough president, does this body have the legal authority to undo a borough president appointment?
Yes,
If we put it in our bylaw.
yes.
Well, you can put stuff in the bylaws that is not permissible by law. Just because we said it doesn't mean, I feel very powerful today, but I'm not sure what that is, you know.
But doesn't
So then we
the
have to-
chair, does the chair have that right?
Yes, chapter 76.
I want to distinguish between should and does, because I think it should. It
Can I,
should.
hi, can I ask a question? This is Anetta. Hi.
Hi.
Actually, I was one of the individuals that raised this concern with Sarah, even though I'm not there in person. So I think for me, sort of I just want to step back a little bit. I think for me, the bigger sort of question or goal with this conversation is how do we create a culture of accountability that folks, and I think some of you made the point earlier that, you know, folks don't just see this as, oh, I'm appointed and then I can just sort of coast. But, and I don't necessarily feel like it needs to be in the bylaws, but I think, to me, I think it's a question of like practice. And I think it would be useful to have a conversation around that. And I also, the issue that was just raised, like if the borough president would, have the authority to appoint somebody to the commission, the borough president and the mayor, I'm not sure how the chair can override that authority.
I'm not suggesting the chair, I'm suggesting the commission.
What is that?
Well, the borough president and the different appointing bodies have the authority to appoint someone to the commission, but then the commission runs as a commission. And they hold that seat of which they fill, right? So I don't know that you're overriding the decision of the appointer.
Well, clearly you are, because if you're kicking somebody out, then that person was selected by the appointer.
But they have to obey by the rules of the commission.
To be sure. I wonder if maybe another proposal might
Do we have a sense of how other commissions handled this issue?
We can look into it.
I think that would be useful to hear what are some best practices out there. I mean, this is an ongoing, this is a regular problem with the board, right? Where, as somebody said earlier, a handful of folks are engaged and do the work, and often others are not. And I sort of, observing that we're so sort of early in the process, and it already was starting to feel like there were folks who were really super engaged, and then there were folks who, for whatever reason, like, are having trouble making it there. So,
I wanted to make a note that one thing I learned through my conversations with you all, and I guess from a legal perspective, anytime we put anything into the bylaws, it means we have to abide by it, right? So wherever, for me, like I feel like a shorthand is if there is nuance and differences on how to approach this, it's better for us not to codify it because then we can have a conversation about it, right? But if it's in the rules, we have to follow the rules. So that to me that's like a great advantage of leaving it open, and I think to Annetta's point and what we're all talking about here and who we are as a body, we're about civic engagement, right? And so the people who are the best exemplars of that are you all, right? And we have to be that. Like, we don't have a choice about it, This is what we stand for to the public. And so I think part of it is for us to really look at ourselves. I'm sort of like, I've said this to the team also, I'm a great believer that whatever is in the outside world and all the dynamics that are shaping the way people engage are in here amongst us, right? Like how people relate to each other, what their communities mean, like the logistical barriers they encounter in getting to meetings, like whether it's that they have too much work to do, or they have, their own personal work, or they have childcare issues, or, the transportation is an issue, they live far away, like, all of those things are here. So, and they will impact attendance, not just at meetings here, but in public hearings and in anything that we're trying to do. And so, maybe this is an opportunity for us to really grapple with that and think about how do we create a culture of accountability in a larger, society that relies on public participation to create laws. How do we help ourselves and help other people be accountable? So I guess that's my long sort of way to say, like, maybe we don't need to put that in there. Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
To my mind, this is not so much about codifying the number of absences that we have, but it's about creating the sense of expectation for a new group that is going to be very reliant on volunteerism and our partnerships with other organizations. And that's, to my mind, that's like a new kind of commission. It's not like the city planning commission, right? It's very different. It's not just like that we're being a very reactive body with what is brought before us. We're going to have to do some very proactive. So I would be much more inclined to not put this in a bylaw, but also simultaneously to do some work about coming up with shared principles for our approach to the work. What our responsibilities.
That's a great idea.
I like the sound of it, yeah.
Okay, so we can, so that wouldn't necessarily, it's not like a bylaws thing, but we could like a shared, it's like a shared,
Right.
shared values, shared values,
Well, what I was going to propose actually was, instead of a negative statement about how many meetings do you get to miss before you're in Dutch, is a positive statement that says that the work of the commission is best achieved by the totality of the commissioners around the table, and that the expectation and anticipation is that every member will attend all the meetings which they are invited, or something like that. But even there, you don't need
very
that.
practicable.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that they're expected and invited to attend and participate. But even there, you don't need it. It's simply an affirmative statement instead of a negative one that can be accomplished the same way by just simply deleting what was meant to be drafted about this. And we've now spent 25 minutes on people who weren't here. So.
Yeah.
I want to echo the statement that was just made. I don't know who that is. I'm sorry.
That's Mark.
I'm
a free square in the middle of your bingo board.
I think that's spot on, and that's exactly how I'm thinking about this.
So are you saying we should add some kind of language to that effect in here? No.
I'm saying leave it alone.
I think, sorry,
Go ahead.
I think it's a good idea to add some language, but make it more positive.
It could potentially help those who appoint as well. I think all of us who went through the interview process, one of the questions we had was what will be expected of us. And because it was a new commission, that was difficult to answer. But I think, laying out some guiding principles, some expectation of appearing at the monthly meetings, because we have set it up as monthly meetings. And then we're going to get into the public meetings as well. If there are some expectations that can then be relayed, I think that would be important.
I mean, for the work of this body, we have to have a quorum, right? Like, if we don't have a quorum at a meeting, we can't take any action. So,
So a quorum is 8, is that what you're
yes,
saying?
yeah.
So what if we start eliminating people because they're not showing up? Do we have people knocking down the door to join? Will be appointed.
Let's assume yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm going to feel very, very sad.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
That's
they're
the
worried.
first problem.
Well, they had the largest number of applications
They
for
did?
this, yeah.
Okay.
But did it?
I mean, it was an open call, which they don't always do for commissions, but
How many people?
they had over 400 or something applications.
Not
For
so high.
commissioners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I don't think so.
So, should one of us have to leave, they have a stack of resumes they can go back to.
So, okay, are we all in agreement that we don't want to
Sorry, I don't
include this paragraph on attendance?
Yeah.
I agree.
We all agree to that, right? So, okay, so now the question is, do we want to have some additional language?
About this. Try something more precise. The work of the commission is best achieved by the participation of all commissioners. It is therefore the goal and expectation that all commissioners attend and participate in each meeting.
Okay, where would we
It
put
has
it?
no teeth, but it's kind of an
No,
aspirational statement.
Would you put it under membership?
Why not?
Article 3.
It has gums, though.
Right.
Sorry, this is Linda. Hello?
Yeah, hi,
That was
Linda.
Oh, hello?
Hi, yeah, we can.
Sorry, this is Linda. I'm on the phone as well. I'm so sorry I couldn't make it in person either, which is kind of, I know, I feel like Annette, I have no right to say anything because I'm not there physically, but my only worry, not really worried, but I mean, I think it's a good idea to put some positive language in there, but then my only thing is that it's kind of like a slippery slope because there's a lot of work that happens also in committees outside of, you know, the actual meetings. And so do we really just want to put an emphasis on meetings or should we just make it more general? Meaning, I think it's okay to actually leave it alone as is. And, you know, with the expectation hopefully that all the commissioners will participate. Because also I feel like a lot of the nitty gritty happens in the committee work, right? Like outside the actual meetings. And so although I do agree that participating in meetings is important, I feel like we haven't even gotten off the ground yet in terms of the listening tours and all the other things that we're trying to do, which I think would probably be a lot more of the work outside of that as well. So I just wanted to put it out there, not saying I have a strong suggestion either way, but you know, I do think obviously the monthly meetings are super important, and I think we had discussed very early on in the beginning that that may also taper off, so that it's not necessarily monthly, depending on, you know, what the scope of work looks like based on what we decide. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there too.
Any
So I think-
responses to that?
No, I mean, I agree with Lydia.
Linda?
Linda.
Okay. I feel like if we don't put anything in there, positive or negative, would probably be better. Because you were saying that you wanted to keep it as vague, well, not vague, but as
Well,
open.
the ability to be
To
open.
be flexibility,
yeah.
right, and to be flexible as possible and legally,
Right.
the less you have, it's all up to interpretation. So I think not putting anything about it in there would be better than if we try to be nice and put in nice words in there. What is that really doing? Making people feel good? Are we talking about a document? Are we talking about people's feelings? That's mine. So I'm thinking just to take it out.
And I am one that's being challenged completely with your location, since I'm so far north, but obviously towards the Bronx, that's where I am. And the time, for me to really participate in meetings in person, will require about 6 hours of my time. And I have a very demanding job, and I'm wondering how we can have a real conversation about what we're doing here. And can we move this meeting? Can we accommodate? And it's tough. We all have different schedules, but it's not like we signed up because we really want to do this work. And, I'm on the phone, but I'm present. I'm listening. I want to do as much as I can for my borough. But I agree that adding language will encourage individuals from coming in the future. Why? Because we're here because we have something to contribute that makes us all really busy.
I actually had that problem, as you know, if we were doing it during the day. And when they were during the day, I was about to step down because I did not think it was fair to hold my seat. I knew I couldn't make the 11 o'clock meetings, and then they switched. So I think there's always someone that it's not going to be conducive.
Yeah, I mean, this was the time that I thought sort of was in between the people
Right.
who were
You kept
couldn't
asking.
do day, some people couldn't do evenings for family, so I thought we make everyone put everybody in the middle. But it's still, I mean, it's, when you have 15 people to schedule, it's like very
And
challenging.
just for clarification, we're talking about habitually being
Yes.
absent.
Yes.
We're not talking about a
Right.
couple of times where
Yes.
things come up. I just want to make that point, that
Yes, good point.
we all understand that things happen.
So it occurs to me that the only consensus we really have around the
It's
table and
not
on the
saying
phone
anything in there.
is to take out the proposed highlighting and
Yes.
replace it with nothing.
Thank you.
That sounds
Yes.
good. Okay, I think
Sorry
that's
to move
right.
this along, but
So let's
move this
move this along, thank you. So the next addition in here, under officers, there was a minor tweak that was made at Chuck's suggestion under vice chair. Before it said the chair shall nominate a member, and we added in here in consultation with the commission.
Under where are you?
Under vice
Okay,
chair.
two. Vice chair.
Article 4, Section 2.
Thank you.
So that would allow allow you all as commissioners to suggest vice chair. All right.
But this still doesn't allow for multiples, the way it's written.
All
Right.
right. Can you clarify?
Doesn't allow for multiple nominations. This is just one nomination. The chair will consult with the commission and shall nominate a member. So it doesn't allow for multiple members to be, or someone to say, I'd like to nominate so-and-so on the floor, or to put themselves in the nomination.
Wouldn't that be the consultation?
Well, actually, I
That
thought
would be the
consultation
process.
is
But someone
The process.
disagrees with that.
No, I mean, but it would be the process. Consultation means the process. So if the chair nominates someone and someone else at the table, another commissioner wanted to nominate someone else, and then we would vote.
That's not what it
Because-
says though.
Okay.
This just says that she consults with the commission and then she nominates.
Right.
Right,
The
but then she'll
nomination
have,
can be
could
confirmed
be two people.
or not.
It has to be confirmed. So in effect, confirmation by a majority vote is the consultation. And I actually litigated a case once on the word consultation,
Oh.
and a federal court said that consultation is more than just notice.
Exactly.
It said that you have to take seriously what the consulting body refers to you, and if you don't agree with them, you have to have a cogent reason why. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but you have to have a reason why.
So are you
It's very
saying?
deep. So I'm saying that I'm not certain we need the consultation, especially if there's only going to be one nominee, because the vote of the 8 members is that's the most meaningful consultation, that we either agree or we disagree. And if there's even only one nomination and you don't get 8 votes around the table, then we have to find somebody else.
Okay.
So I don't object to the consultation, but I think it's redundant.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
He still allows the chair to nominate one person. That's all. That was my objection.
Well, if let's take that, let's,
Sure.
so if we do that, let's say I nominate somebody and you all don't agree to it, you have the opportunity to vote no, right? And then we would start again and try someone else. That's how it would work.
All right.
The only thing that, well, maybe this isn't nothing, especially in this commission, is that the act of consultation would give you a heads up that the person you're about to nominate might not get the confirmation you're looking for. So it would be a friendly way to influence the process, suggest an alternative, and so forth. So I guess in that sense, the consultation might actually have some additional input that the vote would, because then you're not.
Would it be binding then? If you add it, would it be binding to do it?
So the binding is the vote.
Yeah.
The consultation wouldn't be binding, but like I said, it is more than just notice. It's more than just saying, I'm putting up Ms. Smith, and then now we know that you're going to be putting up Ms. Smith, and you go straight to a vote. Consultation would be, I'm putting up Ms. Smith, what do you think? And you hear whatever people say around the table, and if that leads you to rethink Ms. Smith, then maybe that has some value to you, so that you don't have a negative vote.
Or even ask for suggestions
Yeah.
from the body. So that's the consultation part, you know.
Could be.
Yeah,
You're right. Could be.
I mean, that's the way I see it. You know,
So I would leave it.
so I leave it, it's good.
Okay. We're gonna leave that.
Great.
So we've adopted in consultation with the commission.
Yeah, and it's parallel to the language in the next one, which is to add other officers. That's also in consultation with the commission.
So since then.
There was a question, and Chuck had asked it, just about the requirement for quorum and voting. I mean, we have to have 8 in order to make a valid meeting. And your question was, if there are 8 people at the table and we're trying to take an action on something, do all 8 have to agree, right? And because you were asking about whether it would be the majority or 2/3 of the 8. And according to the charter and our law's interpretation of it, it has to
Has to
be.
be the 88 in agreement.
Yeah,
So if you have a minimum quorum, it has to be unanimous then.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
exactly.
And it has parallels in other bodies.
Okay.
And then under removal, Chuck, you had a question about adding some language about the chair's removal. And there is the public officers law, which governs the resignation of the chair, so we don't need to do, we don't need to put it in here, because there's a separate law that. And then, let's see what else. The next big section in here is about the hearings and meetings. Last time we had a conversation about the importance of notifying the public in a timely way. And here, as you'll note on this handout with the highlights, we heard law said the meetings and hearings are both subject to open meeting law. The bylaws are helping us set a floor and a minimum standard, and they recommended we don't add additional requirements that we will then have to follow. But that does not stop us from having good practice, just like the principles, of shared attendance and such, that we would have a system of notifying the public about hearings and meetings in a timely way. That we wouldn't wait, for example, the minimum days is 3. We wouldn't wait 3 days, we wouldn't do a public hearing notice for, in a 3-day window. We would try to do it for longer because we want people to attend, obviously. So that was their recommendation on that.
So I looked up the open meetings law text, and it actually, that's where they get the 3 days.
3 days.
It's actually
Yes.
72 hours, not even 3 days.
Yes.
So theoretically, you could give notice at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and hold your meeting at 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and that that would comply. So if you want to play games, you can always play games. Obviously, the goal would be to do a whole lot better,
Yes.
and I'm okay with
Okay.
I just have an issue, I have to say,
Yes.
that we went around and around about membership with the commissioners and absenteeism, and yet we're okay to accept 3 days to serve the public for a meeting by the Civic Engagement Commission. I mean, I understand that there's the open meeting laws, but the fact that we would put in here that we only have to do it within 3 days is a little troubling to me. I just want to state for the record. I think that we should, I understand that we may come out with guidelines and principles that would ask us to do better and more. But that is troubling to have 3 days.
So there are two different places where we talk about it. One is notice to the other members. That's the first thing under number 4. I didn't label these. I didn't enumerate these. So
And I mean, that's standard,
you
right,
go over-
within a board, if you have to call a meeting,
right.
to have a very short time frame because we may have to pivot on an issue.
You bet.
But I'm talking specifically about a public hearing.
Well, and so if
Or
you turn the
public
page,
meeting.
you go on to page 4, there's a separate section that talks about notice to the public as opposed to notice to all of us. And it also has 3 days because that's what the, has to look at what does the open meetings require, and that's what we put in. But that one is one where I would be more persuaded for the need for longer notice, even though we would be held accountable to it and would be prevented from holding a public hearing on short notice, regardless of the exigency.
I guess I wonder why we wouldn't want to be held accountable to offering more time.
The only thing I can think of is that if there's something that's really, that's on fire, and it's hard to tell what that would be
Yes.
for this commission. But if there's something that's literally burning down as we're speaking, and you have to wait 3 days in order to be in a hearing about it, that might limit the options one has by the time you get around to hearing it.
Understood.
Hard to contemplate what that would be sitting here right now, but
No, understood, that's a good point.
I
And
mean,
I
I
guess
think
that
of a
it's the
bunch of
use of
things, right?
hearing and meeting. A hearing and a meeting, too, can be defined as two different things.
they are defined.
So a meeting to me would be much, I would like to see more than 3 days. A hearing, I can understand if this is something that needs immediate action of some sort, that we would act within 3 days. But a meeting is something that, you're opening it up, you want more people there. I would think that we would want to be longer time frame. But I understand that we don't want to lock ourselves in or out of.
Understood. To take the opposite tack, though, just, and not really the devil's advocate, but just to make sure that we're doing this intentionally, if we say, for example, that you need 10 business days notice before you can convene either a hearing or a meeting, and I might have a different way to parse that than you, but if you say that, then if we have an exigency and we call a meeting on 3 days' notice, then whatever action we take would, technically speaking, not be authorized to be taken.
No,
And that's the
I'm
problem.
agreeing with
Yeah.
you, I'm agreeing with you. I understand that point now. I think what I'm saying then is I'm trying to differentiate meeting and hearing, maybe. So that when we have a
I'm
meeting,
gonna have a question.
Yep.
Mrs. Williams, do we have to add language to require meeting notice? Oh, because I agree with both sides. You don't want to be an emergency because you don't know if you want to give 30 days, 2 months notice so that you can get the best outreach done. Do you need this requirement?
Yes, you need something because otherwise you can call a meeting on 5 minutes notice, and that obviously is not in the spirit or the intention of anybody around this table. But technically speaking, it would be true.
I mean, the open meeting law requires us to have at least 3 days.
That's
right, so I think we should leave it as 3 days, but I think when we do our principles and guidelines for the commission, that we should set a longer time frame to shoot for.
Correct. I'm off of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Eve, and then just a very quick point here.
if we're gonna be doing that, I just wanted to point out that we probably need to give the public more advance time in terms of application for a hearing and a meeting, I think, just because if people are going to testify. in a
Yes.
hearing, it's gonna be time to register.
Yes. For example, on that point, when we post the bullseye methodology, we're required to have it up for a minimum of 30 days, right? And then the hearing will be after that 30-day period.
I agree with making sure that we give as much time to the public as possible to be informed about meetings and hearings. I think that a couple months ago, I asked like, how often are we going to meet as a commission? Some commissions meet, I think, twice a year, like some meet 4 times a year. I think because of how new we are, I think we said we were going to do as many meetings as possible to get us up and off the ground. So once I think we should like at some point figure out like when are we off the ground, and then have ensure that we have like a public calendar of our stated meetings. Hopefully with a year of meetings, and hopefully that falls in line with like some of the other commissions or bodies' schedule. So if it's going to be 4 meetings a year or 4 hearings a year with 3 meetings in between or 4 meetings in between, whatever it is that we're making that public as well, then that issue of like the open meeting law isn't really a thing. And that we should only really be giving notice for 3-day issues. Let's say if there's like a special election that gets scheduled and we're not prepared as a city to have a special, something, I don't even know what a special meeting would come to this body for. But in the interest of just being honest and fair right now, I think that we should actually have a year calendar, hopefully after the first or second quarter of next year.
We're going to work on that. Okay. Sorry, I lost. Okay, so we're going to remove that. The minimum will be 3 days. We will also include an aspirational statement.
You're moving, I'm sorry.
Just the section about the notice and means and modes of giving notice.
Oh. Well, right now you've got notice by first class mail, electronic mail, or.
Yeah, it's just
person.
the yellow, the highlighted section was added.
Right.
So, and that also, there was mentioning here about including reference to topic.
Yep.
And again, I think there's no requirement of in the open meeting law about that. That we,
It's true.
so,
So I'm concerned about, the reason I drafted this the way that I did, verbose and obscure as it is that relying on mail, email, and delivery in person are all imprecise ways to get messages to people, especially on 3 days' notice. And so I was trying to find a formulation that would ensure delivery of notice, especially on short notice, in the means most likely to be effective given those circumstances. And first class mail obviously ain't going to do it.
No.
Email, the only problem is you can't confirm, you often cannot confirm that it actually was received. And delivery in person, there's no record of it being received.
so you were saying modes in media, like just
The
general.
word means apparently escaped my notice at that time. So should be given using means reasonable and practicable under the circumstances.
You want to say that again?
Such notice shall be given using means that are reasonable and practicable under the circumstances.
What does that mean? You really dummied it down.
Yeah,
It
you can
means that
scream
you-
from the rooftop.
Yeah, that kind of falls in it, doesn't it?
But if the guy's standing right next to you, that might be better than email.
Right.
But I think that in these other forms of notification, it's written down, right? So there's a written record of
There
it.
is.
So that, and it doesn't stop us from, in addition to that, doing other things. Like, for example, we can call people, or we can text people, in addition to emailing them, or mailing them, or delivering to them a written notice. Well, assuming we see them in person, we can have to then text or call them.
Okay.
Okay, I
I
think
don't
we're
want to
gonna,
belabor it.
okay, I think we're gonna
Leave it the way.
Okay. Thanks.
There was another question about, under quorum. What happens if there is less than a quorum present? We were talking about, under Article 7, Section 7, quorum.
Yep.
If there's less than a quorum, we were talking about potentially moving to adjourn the meeting. And the only thing that was added on that is that the law department said the chair shall rule on the motion, so it allows us to.
That's fine.
That's fine.
We don't vote in every meeting other than.
It wouldn't count, it wouldn't be voting anyway, because it's less than a quorum.
That's fine.
And, okay, and then, the last, Article 8.
Should we go to 8, may I
Yeah.
stop you? Back to 7 for a second. Article 7, Section 10. There's still an issue here with this voting, and I'll explain. So, any vote that we take is going to require 8 members
Yes.
to make it enacted. So if you have a minimum of 8 members and you have a quorum, that means you need a majority, and not a majority, you need a unanimous vote at that point.
Yeah.
Literally meaning that your bylaws may not be your bylaws, your minutes may not be able to be approved, because technically if someone missed the last meeting, they could abstain from voting on the minutes, because they don't know whether or not the minutes are accurate or not. So what this is saying is that 8 is the magic number, no matter whether you have 8 people as a minimum quorum or 15 people as a majority. It just doesn't, just to let you know, if that's the way it's gonna stay, there might be a lot of inactions.
That's absolutely correct.
I mean, we sort of encountered that on the last meeting as well.
Panel for Educational Policy works that way. Community Education Councils work that way. Pretty sure the Landmarks Preservation Commission works that way. And there are times in which they can't take action, and you're absolutely right.
But we do have that, I don't know where it is in here, but we discussed that our minutes have to be published within X amount of time after each meeting.
I was
So-
just using that as an example.
Well, I'm just saying, if the one vote that we do take every meeting is the minute vote, right? Vote on the minutes. But that information is made available, so each commissioner should be
Access
reviewing
to it.
those.
Even if they're not at the meeting.
But I wasn't at the last meeting, so technically I should have said. I have no idea whether the minutes were accurate, even if it's posted. But that's not the issue, I just made that as one little
We might have a situation where that we're not able to take action.
correct, that's what I'm saying, that if it stays with 8, everybody should recognize that at that point, even if you have a quorum, at that point, then you need a unanimous vote, otherwise it takes, an inaction has to be laid over.
I mean, I personally, I think that I'm comfortable with that because we are a body of 15. And given that, I think I'd like it to be 8 to take action. Different, I mean, and yeah.
I'm just pointing it out, was there something
That's a good
stipulated by the law department that's required that you have to have 8 versus?
I think it's just the language of the charter, section 3201, that talks about.
It's in the language, it says,
quorum,
they
yeah.
stipulate that it has to be 8. If it's in a charter, it's a
Quorum.
different story. Well, I know it's the quorum,
Yeah, just, I mean, it's
but that's different from a vote. The quorum, I understand, that's.
So I'm on a number of
I agree
boards
with
where
you.
it's the quorum is the majority, right? It gives you the majority of members. And then, the vote has to be by that number, so. Like I'm on a board of 7, 4 is the quorum. We have to have 4 to approve anything. So I have to get all 4 members to,
Oh, so you do have to go.
yeah, I mean,
So the charter says a majority of the whole number of members of the commission then in office shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of any business. The commission shall have the power to act by a majority of its members.
Well, that
That's
actually
not
is,
what this says, though.
that's right.
By the majority of its members.
But then in office.
Right.
Right?
Right, so let me distinguish 2 scenarios. One is there are 15 members of the board in office and only 8 show up in the meeting, you would need 8. And distinguish that from there are 13 members of the board because 2 have resigned or been removed or
Right.
whatever.
7 show up.
So 7 show up, that
Can't
would
do
be
any
a
action.
quorum. That would be a quorum.
Correct, but no action to be taken.
But according to this, you couldn't take action.
Correct.
So you have a quorum but no vote. That technically could happen.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm just pointing it all out. As everybody says that's the way we do it, that's so be it. But I'm just pointing it out that it's exactly the unique situation that could happen.
it does dovetail back into the attendance, because you want to have attendance in order to have the quorum, to have a full body here so that you are able to take action. So it goes, unfortunately, right back to the attendance issue.
Exactly where it starts.
Well,
Where
actually,
we started to begin with.
and it raises the problem that they had in
Okay,
the
so-
California State Senate where a majority of the folks walked out and therefore prevented the rest of them from taking action. This can happen.
Right.
So-
I don't think it's going to happen here,
So-
but it can happen.
I was thinking, if we added language that spoke to, with the 8 members, yes, but language that says the current composition of the board, which if it goes to 13, that would change the 8, because that would change the total amount of people that
Well,
are
my
on the
recollection, I'm sorry, my recollection is that we raised
board.
that.
We did,
And then
bring that, and
Sarah
that was
took it
in-
back to the law department and they
Right.
came back with what you see in front of you. I
Yeah.
don't think any of us wrote
So I
this here.
asked the last
That's
time.
right.
yeah, you asked that question.
Well, there's in the section, Article 7, Section 7, quorum is defined the way it is in the charter. It says, members of the commission then in office shall constitute a quorum.
Right. So then I think we should just add language to that, which speaks to that also, if necessary.
Well, then are you gonna change the removal too, which is 10, which is supermajority?
Having already raised this issue and had it sent back to us as is, and if we're going to pick a fight with the law department, I'm not sure this is it.
No.
It's just about,
Amy, going back to the 10, it's 2/3 based upon 15.
Correct. No.
So that can be
About
simplified by
13.
just saying 2/3.
No, the law department didn't want that, right?
I don't think that was, I think this was the provision that we went back to them on, and they came back and said, no, it needs to be 8. And that is consistent with the practice of other commissions, including the ones that I mentioned. Chuck is exactly right that it could lead to mischief, it could lead to problems. But that seems to be the practice, and having already gone through the exercise of having this go back to the law department and have them send it back to us in the form that we see it here, as I said, I disagree with it, but it may be that this isn't the fight. I don't want to die on that hill.
I'm not dying on the hill. Amy brings up a good point, though. I think they got too specific with the 10 number based upon 2/3, and they articulated the number.
Well, I'm only saying that because you said the last meeting, it did say 2/3, and you said that was my internal note. That's to
How
be
you get to
taken
10,
out,
sure.
and you said that's to be taken out.
Right.
So it was 10, and the 2/3 language was
But that's the-
removed.
but
And
that's
I thought that was under advisement of the law
It
department.
was.
Yeah,
Originally, I and I think others had recommended the language that Chuck is talking about.
Yeah, right.
And it was sent back to us, and so I just don't want to go round and round and round on this.
Yeah, I think they
So,
they're specifying the number given the composition of
15.
The expected number.
The expected composition.
expected composition, so that if we don't have 15 or if we don't, we should, that, the priority would be to fill that seat.
Okay.
that still doesn't solve the issue. I'm sorry.
It doesn't.
I'm sorry. I think they got a little too specific and they put a number in instead of 2/3 based upon the expected constant composition. And if the number does change, it still should be a 2/3 vote. I would ask them again on that one, because I think it's a good point. And if they say that 8 is the number, then 8's the number, we live with that. But again,
You're
if my-
talking specifically about the voting.
right.
Well, it would carry over to everything.
Everything.
Everyone's
Yeah.
there's an 8
Within
mentioned
the
or a 10 or
10.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not just use the same language that they have here, the attendance of the majority of the whole?
That's
number
what
of
I was
members of the
saying.
commission, then
In office, that
We
that
know
was
how
my
to do it.
point.
Where are you
The problem is
reading?
not how to do it. The problem is we suggested that, and they sent back a number instead of that phrase.
But why can't we add that phrase to where they have the number?
Because that would be changing what they told us we should do.
Oh,
And so
okay.
if the will of the board is,
Ask
let's
them
ask them
if we
again,
can
then let's
ask
ask
them-
them again.
If we can
That would
add
be
the
the phrase, point them to that phrase.
that if, of the numbers that are at the
So
time.
just
that
to
might have to
paraphrase,
be-
so that I relay the concern correctly. We are concerned about a situation in which we are unable to take action
Correct.
because we do not have the 15 members in office, or because, what else?
No, that's it.
That's
That's it. Because the other one is, there's a failure to attend, but that doesn't, having 8 in that situation is not a problem. The problem is if there is fewer than a full complement of commissioners,
Okay,
then a majority, so you could theoretically, so to use Chuck's example, you could have a valid quorum
okay,
and not be able to take action.
Right.
That's, in a nutshell, that's the
That's the
problem.
problem.
Right, but that's one question to reconfirm with them, and the other one is the 2/3 language based upon then in office.
But that's just a permutation of the same problem.
yes.
Not really.
It's majority of the.
All right, all right, all right. I disagree, but not really.
Okay.
We can talk, I'll talk more with you offline about, so that I frame it correctly.
I gotta
when
remember to
go back.
litigate with him on the elevator before we get there.
We have about 20 minutes left before the comments period, so,
Actually, our lightning round, shall we?
yeah, so I mean, under
Richard,
Article 8, there was a bunch of
Oh, okay.
things that they wanted, the whole article on your highlighted sheet.
Yep.
They thought that the first sentence on here, the commission may appoint, under section 1, the commission may appoint by majority vote such committees of members and may delegate such powers and duties to them as the commission may deem advisable. They thought that sentence was very broad and encompassing and included pretty much everything we would want to add. That we could create working groups, it allows us to create working groups, call them working groups, it allows us to create committees, call them committees, whatever we want. It doesn't, they just thought that it didn't necessarily, again, it would add more things that we needed to do.
Again, the language is inconsistent because here it says by majority vote.
By majority vote of the committee,
Yeah, but.
which is different than the
Oh,
commission.
okay, by committee.
Yeah.
Might have a small group, 5.
Yeah, sorry.
So the commission may appoint by majority vote of the commission. Committee is that number of committees, right, and designate powers and duties. The chair will serve as a member of the committees, and then each committee will include at least 3 members. And if you want to make officers, you can by majority vote of the committee. So it's a much leaner section than including
All of the.
section 2, 3, and 4.
By majority vote. Section committee.
So their proposal is to
So
take out all of
it's the
them.
commission's
Yeah.
majority vote.
Okay.
Because they're saying all of these things are covered under the first
They may
sentence.
appoint by majority vote.
Um,
I completely disagree with that.
Well, I mean, most of, and then the number 4, the reporting, it's research and investigations.
Mhm.
Again, I think it's the difference is like shall, just requiring someone to do it, whereas they should do it, I guess, anyway. That was their comment. Again, they left it up to you all. They said if you really want it, you can, but they think a lot of this is covered. So it doesn't seem like we're gonna take this to vote today. right?
It's close, but not there yet.
Close but not there. So we can pause the conversation here. That's okay.
And you took out the language of the, no, you kept in 72 hours.
Where are you?
You kept in on the commission's website, Article 9, Section 1, 72 hours after the adjournment, that this will be live on the website.
Well, I think we inserted we're reasonably practical,
I don't see that.
just above middle sentence, middle line.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the big things we need to revisit are the issue of the quorum and voting members, and then also the working groups and committees. Thank you everybody for your input on all of that. So to quickly go through the program updates. One big thing we all can cheer for is we have selected and notified people of their appointment to the Participatory Budgeting Advisory Committee. Yes, we have, and that's, as you know, mandated for us to do. So I want to thank everyone for helping to circulate the application, and also in your packets, there's a list of people who we've notified that they're part of the advisory committee. We tried to pay attention to age diversity, borough, language, trying to get representation from groups that are typically not engaged, like veterans, people with disabilities, seniors, other groups, language with language barriers, etc. So we tried to create an inclusive committee. However, there is one gap that we need to fill, which is that we do not have anyone from Staten Island. So we are going to work to try to get people who might be interested in applying. Are there any questions about the advisory committee?
So this is not a subcommittee of the commission, it's an advisory
It's
committee?
a separate advisory committee, yeah,
Thank
and we're looking to hold a meeting hopefully mid-December, hoping that it works out the timing of the hiring of our PD advisor or the onboarding of the person. Maybe it could be early Jan, but yeah, that's the time.
Can I post that application responsibilities on social media?
Well, most of the positions have been filled, so we don't
I mean, for
necessarily.
you said you needed someone for Staten.
Yeah, I think it's probably better for us to think together about who could potentially be good candidates. Because for that committee, we're just, mostly filled, so we don't want to leave people have an impression that there's like a lot of openings.
Right.
Yeah.
So the advisory committee would be under your direction?
Under the Civic Engagement Commission, under your our direction.
Oh, there's no chair of this group, something like that? It's just,
No,
it's just
the
coming-
chair. I mean, the advisory committee is staffed by a staff member of the commission.
Oh, that's what I Thank you.
Whole site interpretation. We are almost ready to notify the people selected. We had a smaller group of applicants for that. There are about 10 people who've been selected. We're still finalizing this. But one thing to note is that the Language Access Advisory Committee is required to have members who are fluent in the local law 30 languages. So we have a couple of gaps there. We are missing people speaking Arabic, Haitian Creole, Korean, Polish, and Russian. So I'll get back in touch with you about this, how to get more people applying who are speaking these languages and speak to the topic of the advising work. Community boards, really quick updates there. We had a phone call with the Bronx Borough President's Office to learn more about their trainings. We also did a meeting with Beta NYC, who's doing a lot of great work with Manhattan community boards with technological tools. And we wanted to learn more about their tech trainings to community boards. And then DCP
is actually holding a board leadership forum tomorrow. There are 2 sessions, and they're going to be sharing planning tools with community boards. I don't know if anyone here is attending that. But they'll be talking about like the storefront vacancy study they've been doing. There's another geography of jobs online tool that will allow people to look at housing and employment trends, zoning applications, etc. So they're going to be doing. So we're going to hopefully attend that tomorrow to learn more. And then we are looking to talk with each borough president's office to learn about their trainings, but then also working with the community affairs unit to convene community boards by borough. The district managers and chairs to bring them together and talk more about their needs. So, and then we also invited Department of City Planning to come and present to us at the next meeting, which they will be doing. We don't have time to really go through the presentation, but I was going to show it to you. We can put that on the next meeting's agenda. I can also email it to you. I've emailed it to the people who are not here. So you see where the current version is. There's a one-pager. Last meeting, or at some point, you said it'd be great to have a one-pager about the Civic Engagement Commission. So that is in your packet that the team developed. So this is like, a very quick overview of what the CEC does. It's, can be translated into different languages. Again, if you would like to take that and look at it and maybe we can talk about it at the next meeting. The last, I guess, area that I wanted to cover is the listening sessions. That sort of has fallen off our radar a little bit, so I wanted to bring that back. We are going to need to put forward a strategy for participatory budgeting in July. So trying to think of how these listening sessions can dovetail with some of our other mandates, and we didn't, the way that we're thinking about it now, and would love to get your input on this, is that all of the mandates of the commission are requiring us to pay attention to communities that are less engaged, and some of those communities have been explicitly named in the charter language. So, for instance, immigrant communities or people with language access needs, seniors, youth, veterans, people with disabilities. There's also the community of people who are the criminal justice community. Justice involved community, and so there are these different segments. So we are thinking that we could do listening sessions starting with these communities. So, for example, start with the veterans group or youth, convening to get their thoughts about civic engagement broadly, but also to talk specifically about the mandates of the commission, including participatory budgeting. And we could try to do this in a citywide way and try to get, diversity within each group, within each issue area. So I wanted to, because before we were talking about borough-based, so this is a little, changing that. I mean, it doesn't have to be either or, but I think we need to start somewhere. So I'm just trying to figure out, what would help.
So you said by July, for what specific?
Participatory budgeting.
So that the plan would be done by July.
We need to be ready to roll by July.
And how is that going to be impacted into the city budget process, which kind of wraps up a little bit historically? It's been wrapped up historically a little bit before that, by like the first week of June for the past few years. So would we be caught in the upcoming city budget for?
Yes, we're trying to have those conversations now so that the advisory committee hopefully has an amount to work with. Yeah.
So the money would be earmarked in this next fiscal year budget?
Yes.
For
Yes.
would it be the work of the PB advisory committee to, there's a parallel to, as I see it, to what you were offering about the participation of folks on the PB advisory committee, and paying attention to those communities and groups who are not traditionally having the greatest access to power and being heard. There's a parallel that the actual allocation of money ought to follow that same protocol, and that folks who have other opportunities to secure funding from whatever other sources of government make them available would not be the first folks approached and or listened to with respect to this new pile of money that will be in the budget. Would it be, so I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, A, am I correct that that is a goal? And B, would it be the work of the PB advisory committee to try to devise strategies to meet that goal? Or would it be somebody, would it be us, or who would it be?
I mean, I think we need to talk about whether that's I mean, the charter specifies that we must include these people,
Sure.
right? And actually report on how those communities were involved. So we're going to have to determine a strategy that allows us to do that, for sure. And so I think we can't really, we do need to collect the input of the advisory committee on this, so, I'll shape that, yeah.
So, the process
Yes.
now has
Oh, great.
This is supposed to find the draft stage. It's about a community engagement event aimed at youth and emotional
Oh, great.
participation in budgeting. So, I mean, it lays out a very specific event targeted at that population, but also tries to derive lessons that could be, relevant in a number of different situations.
That's
So that-
amazing.
That should be available.
Oh, okay, amazing. So that's great. That would be a great starting point.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a resource.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I just have one follow-up question. So will we be taking a recommendation from this advisory committee on the amount that this commission will be recommending, or is that something that we will be doing? I'm trying to understand where that amount comes from. Like, how much is going to be put up for the city under the admin?
I mean, I think the amount is determined by our fiscal reality, right, on one level. I mean, we have to, I don't think that we can say this is what we want and look at it, is what I mean. Is that what you're asking?
I'm thinking about like what is the process that we're taking to get to that number. So is it going to be from the advisory committee that we're putting together these 20 plus folks to come together and think about this process, or is it going to be something that we say, or is it going to be something that we're going to? I know that we're doing an intake of every kind of citywide PD process, right? So I don't think that gets counted into this other aspect of what I'm talking about right now. So like what DOT does with their participatory budgeting process, not budgeting, but participatory process.
Well, that's they're as part of council's process.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
And then the same thing I think NYCHA has a program too. Community boards have their own planning processes, but this is something separate that would be new under this commission.
Yes.
So that number that I'm talking about, like it's $9 billion, is going to come from us, the advisory committee, or that. Like, I'm not sure kind of where that is.
I mean, I think that what we can do as a commission is put on the table what the asks are, right? From stakeholders, from you all, from whatever we think. But the administration is going to have to make a determination of what that amount would be
So
in actuality.
do we pick up the recommendation from the advisory committee and then discuss that and then move that forward to the admin, or are we going to discuss a number and then float it down to them? I'm not sure how that would happen.
No, the way that it is actually working in actuality is that we were presented with recommendations from a group of stakeholders who have been instrumental in creating the Civic Engagement Commission and pushing for participatory budgeting. And we know how different cities are allocating money. We know what's happening here locally, right, with the council and their process. So we're trying to look at all of these different things and make and put that on the table for conversation with OMB and with the administration, and they will let us know what they determine is feasible for us going forward.
So that one stakeholder group that helped create this commission and has been helpful in like recruiting people, that is not the only body that we're taking recommendations from, right? Like there is an advisory group that we're gonna look at and ask them for their thoughts on what they should be, and then
Well, I mean, I think the work of the advisory group is to help craft the citywide strategy.
Process.
Yeah, given the resources.
yeah, I just don't want us to have like I don't know who else is in that group that has put forward a EV strategy for the city. I think that should be a discussion here as well of like what we think we should be doing. And of course, I won't come with like a $9 million request, but like I think we should all like think through a little bit more so that we have a better way of understanding what we could do versus like limiting ourselves. Maybe it's like an aspirational initiative that we say that year 1 we want to see X, year 2 we want to see Y, year 3, and go down that road.
We can talk, I mean, we can talk more about that at the next meeting, though I think by then we might have a better sense as to what's feasible.
Okay.
So,
I think that we should just we should, as a commission, commit to doing at least a meeting on that, so that we can have folks who are interested in this topic be able to come to that meeting and also offer like their comments on
okay.
Back to
Yes.
voting, are we limited just to poll side interpretation, or can we get involved along with the process? I.e., and we just had early voting, I'm sure everybody has some feelings about that, there'd be some recommendations. I would like to see that, I just don't know whether or not we're stepping out or that's okay.
About early voting in particular?
The process, how it was, the amount of time, the amount of days, what the reach was, how people knew about it. whether it was
Yeah,
outside
we
the-
can- how about we put both of these things on our, well, we can't spend a lot of time on bylaws next time if we want to engage
Right,
on program, but we could spend time talking about participatory budgeting and early voting interpretation.
And I was thinking about the census and the work that they're doing and how this commission could interact in terms of going out, at least listening when the census team is out, because I know they're going to do very grassroots, community-based organization work.
Yes.
If we can somehow participate in that, at least from a listening standpoint, to hear what many of the communities have to say and how that might inform us.
That's a good question. I'll try to learn more about whether they are doing. I'm not sure if they're doing any kind of listening tour. I was actually thinking it would be great for us to team up with them and with Democracy and other folks who might be interested in doing like a New York City civic engagement listening tour. Large, we're going to include all these different topics, but
I know at the moment they're reaching out to
They're reaching out
individual
to community boards.
community groups and community boards. They're going very grassroots.
They're also recruiting people
For
to do the
jobs.
actual jobs,
Yeah.
which is apparently not going as well as it might in some communities. So,
Right.
all right, so it is now 5:32, so we're going to turn to the public comment section of the meeting. So is someone here from the Dramatist Guild of America? No.
Maybe they'll come in very, yeah.
A grand entrance.
Yeah, someone cue them.
Love it.
keep the drum.
So there's no one here. Jenna Crisponte. I did speak to her earlier today. She said she would but maybe she's just late. Possibly. So
we've gone through everything. I mean, we can go back to talking about the PowerPoint if you'd like to see it. The PowerPoint that provides an overview of the CEC that potentially people could use if they were to ask.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, or if you'd like to.
We don't want to fill the time. I can go have a drink.
Okay, so Murad is suggesting something about the one pager. Can you just repeat what you said?
I am asking if we can get this a little bit better graphically designed. And also, if we were able to use the text that's here to make our own material and just add on and just be translated.
Yeah, we definitely want to translate it. So any suggestions that people have, like if we send it to you as a Word document, you want to like give us track changes or something? Is that what you're thinking? Anyone else interested in that or?
I nominate Laura.
We'll send her along, dancing.
And then if you want to know for design or that. I just think the way that it's layered, like right now, it's not very accessible for folks who have like very limited reading capacity, and even if it gets translated into other languages,
It's still not gonna be.
it's still not very accessible.
I think one of the toughest things that we don't often talk about is literacy, right? You know, how do we really make our materials understandable to people who have low literacy, and including in other languages? Like they might not be literate in, you know, they might not necessarily be literate in their own language.
Also, pictures are very important. And now that I'm looking at it a little closer, I'm like, oh, the first one. There's money going into one person's hand. Maybe that's not the image we want.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
even
so-
as I'm translating in my head into Arabic, it's not accessible.
So it actually would be really helpful. We will email you the one pager. So please feel free to mark it up and send it back to us. And I have a feeling you will say the same thing about the PowerPoint because
Yeah.
gotta start somewhere. Yeah. So this is the PowerPoint that we have. So I'll just take you through it. I'm not going to deliver it to you, but I'll just give you you'll see what each slide sort of covers. In the beginning, we're really talking about how this came into existence, and why the people who were part of the Charter Revision Commission process felt that the CEC was necessary, right? They really wanted to see a centralized mechanism there's nothing currently, or before this, there was nothing currently in the charter. Sorry. There was nothing in the charter there was no body that allowed government to sort of work on these issues of trust, confidence, and increased participation. They wanted to see like a clearinghouse of information that would help connect people to a variety of opportunities on civic engagement. And then also to have a space where you could launch initiatives that would help strengthen civic engagement. So this was created as a ballot measure in November 2018, last year, a year ago, and passed 65 to 35. And the charter was amended as a result. Then there's different sections of the charter that talk about the overview of the commission, membership, powers and duties, assistance to community boards, cooperation of mayoral agencies, and the rest of the presentation is really sort of built around these areas. This slide just tells you again the purpose, and then there's membership, goes over the different members and where they're appointed, who they're appointed by. And then this talks about the defined duties, the mandates of the commission. So there are really 5 areas that have been defined in the charter: participatory budgeting,
strengthening community partnerships to promote civic engagement, language access. We're making sure that our materials are accessible in a variety of languages, full site assistance, and partnering with city agencies to strengthen civic engagement. The next series of slides really goes into the 3 mandates more. So citywide participatory budgeting is one of those mandates. More than 1,500 cities participating worldwide, and gives a little bit of history of what we've been doing in New York City, including the council process and then the addition of $2,000 per school in 2018. And we are tasked with actually coordinating with various bodies in implementing participatory budgeting, including borough presidents, community boards, and agencies, and then tasked with doing an advisory committee. And the charter also talks about the age of people who will participate. It's above 16. I think their council actually allows for 13 and above, right? So that's something for us to 12, 11. Oh, there we go. So yeah, and then consulting with different agencies. This is the piece that I was just talking about. If we're going to do listening sessions, starting to work with these agencies and creating sort of issue-focused or community-focused listening sessions. Again, strengthening existing civic engagement initiatives, partnering with existing CBOs is another area, and then language access, making sure that we are accessible. Whole site assistance, approximately 23% of New Yorkers and 49% of immigrants are limited English proficient. So we're looking, the stakeholders wanted us to build on Voya's pilot and to establish a citywide program for full site interpretation. We are adding to the work of the Board of Elections. We're not replacing it. We want to help expand more people being served, particularly local people speaking local authority languages. And also we're tasked with doing a language assistance advisory committee. As we mentioned, we are going to be on track to publish this whole site interpretation methodology on January 1. We should have this up on our website. We will have public comment on this. We will have a public hearing and publish the final methodology by April, and be ready to implement this by November 2020. And then we are also tasked with reviewing and on an ongoing basis this methodology. So on or before September 2022, and then every 5 years thereafter, we need to review the full site methodology and revise it. And then also think about the standards for who is acting as an interpreter and how they should be trained. Think about that. We also have to, not only do we need to develop the interpretation program, but we got to make sure that the word gets out about it, right? It's not enough to provide interpreters. We need to make sure that people know that this service exists, and continue to monitor how the service is being used. And again, the charter is very specific. We are not replacing anything that the DOE is doing because they're servicing languages covered under the Voting Rights Act. So we're adding to that service. And the last part is just working with city agencies. We know that city agencies have opportunities and are engaging with community members on their programs. We want to get a better handle of what those opportunities are, help centralize them in a portal, and then also work with agencies to develop additional opportunities that they might not be doing. Help them strategize, think about reaching out, creating opportunities for community engagement. And the charter does have a directive to city agency heads to collaborate with the Civic Engagement Commission. One thing we haven't covered yet is community boards. So there are 59 community boards and their capacity is limited. So the CEC is charged with improving their access to urban planning resources, helping community boards connect better with their communities through translation services, and then training on technological tools, improving like their websites, for example, developing uniform meeting procedures, etc. So this is part of why we're trying to do the needs assessment to have a better handle on how to implement these mandates. And then the reporting requirements are also spelled out in the charter. So we need to, as I mentioned already, we need to report on who has participated, the number of people who participated in PD, demographic breakdowns, projects selected for recommendation, how we're reaching out to the public. That needs to be reported, and then similarly for language access, where the poll sites are located, the languages we provided interpretation in, and the number of people who are using the services, and any other information we think is relevant. For community boards, also we need to provide the resources that we are offering to community boards and the number of community boards that take advantage of these resources. That's it.
That's good.
Good start. I mean, it was meant as a tool to help you when you are asked to come and speak about your work. If you wanted to do a PowerPoint, it gives you some talking points. You don't need to put up the PowerPoint. You should take this and use it to structure your talk.
I just have one thing. In slide 1, the first slide.
The first slide?
Yeah. Well, the one after that.
Sorry, I don't know.
The lawn. Excuse me. Item 3. No, that's the one.
Oh.
The first one. Go back. Yeah. Where it says civic engagement innovations, and it says participatory budget, poll site interpretation. It's actually missing the community board or the other aspect. I mean, there's 3 things that we have to do. And only
Yes,
have
we can add
yeah, so we need to add that to there.
that. Okay.
Because later on we start talking about it and they're like, why are you doing this if you didn't have to do this?
Got it. Yep.
But other than that, it's wonderful. Thank you.
I mean, you can see that it's for specific audiences, right? It's not and if you want to translate it into Arabic, it might not go over so well.
Pretty insider.
Yeah, I think it's more so for organizational leadership and
Yes.
community boards.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the general.
The general public.
Fire should be more so doing that presentation.
Yeah.
And
So-
if it's that audience that I just mentioned, I think that's going to be fine.
Yeah, but you're right that we need something for the general public that is understandable and that also gets people excited.
And just one thing, even though it is for, we've said, more people who know what's going on, I think that laying out what all the acronyms are is
Yes.
important, because I've found in meetings, people don't ask because they think everybody else knows but them.
Yes.
Meanwhile,
Nobody
more
knows.
than half the people have no idea what was being referenced.
For example, we're not on the Community Education Council.
That's
Right.
Everybody.
We're not CDC District 15 or District 5.
I was gonna say that we should probably call ourselves like civics EC, so it's like,
I've been using NYCEC for us and
Civ
CEC.
EC?
yeah. I don't know, it's a little bit, everyone goes after,
It
like,
gets confused with
it's
the
the CEC.
With the CEC.
community education.
Yeah, education person, yeah.
Alright. So you gave me power to ask, what's Moya? Mayor's Office of?
Immigrant affairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
First, when you said it, I thought you were talking about the council member. Then I
Oh,
looked there, I'm like,
right.
so I didn't know what it was, thank you. But exactly like you said, you don't ask.
Right.
Right.
I'm just gonna ask one more time, is the Dramatists Guild of America here? Okay. We are going to be in touch with you about creating a calendar of meetings for after December. Our next meeting is on December 18th from 4 to 6. So we've already talked about a couple of things that are going to be on the agenda there, including we'll have DCP presenting. Is there any other item that you want to talk about today, like in the next 10 minutes, or things you want to put on the agenda for the next meeting?
I just have a question, and if we've talked about it before, I apologize, I don't remember, but why does it only count as attendance if you're here? Like in terms of if people are able to call in, why doesn't that count as attendance? I'm just curious because that, like we were talking about, sometimes from an accessibility perspective, I haven't had trouble yet, but it's not a question of will I, it's a question of when will I in terms of an accessibility. And I know Holly, who is also on the commission, who has a disability, after our very first meeting, she said, I'm not so sure that I want to do this, but I'm not so sure how possible it's going to be. She talked to me offline about it because of her commute and her family situation and the accessibility challenges. So I'm just curious, why do you have to be here for it to count as attendance?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, so I'm looking for it on my phone, but of course can't find it. I know for, as a matter of course, that again, lots of agencies operate that way. What I don't know is whether that's actually in the administrative code. My guess is that it is, but I'll look for it.
Yeah, we can bring that back.
But my understanding was, if you're on the phone, you're in attendance, but you can't vote. So that's my understanding of it. Yeah.
So why, if you're counted as attending, why can't it be?
Well, you can't vote over the phone. That's
It's called phoning in a vote.
You can't phone in your vote.
But
Go ahead.
is that our policy? I'm sorry, this isn't a, wanting to clarify, is that our policy?
That's two votes.
This is why I'm
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that earlier.
I mean, it doesn't count towards, really it doesn't count towards attendance, because it doesn't count towards quorum. So,
Because there's no vote attached to it.
Yeah.
If there were a vote, would that change it?
it's really only when we're voting on things, right? That's when it becomes important to be there in person. I mean, for other business in the commission, we're just having a conversation, not voting on anything, then it doesn't matter whether,
Would the technology make any difference? Like if it was, a Zoom meeting or a Skype,
like a video conference.
video conference as opposed to a phone call, would that have any impact on?
It's a really good question. I suspect that our code doesn't necessarily reflect contemporary.
So in the general public, they exist all different forms. A, if you're not physically here, you're not here and you're not voting. Yes, you're here, but you can't vote. And yes, you're here and you can vote. They all three are being used in different realms based upon the company, whether it be a public or a private company. Some will let someone be on the phone or be on the screen and say that you're here and you can vote. And then others, like you just said, you're here for the meeting, but you can't vote.
So
Which seems kind of silly.
I guess my question then is what determines which is,
The organizations normally make that decision. So it could be either internal or whether or not we have to abide by something to the law department.
Can't find it.
Whether or
Doesn't mean
not
it's
that's
not there.
acceptable.
Yeah, I know, you look it up.
On the little screen.
But yeah, all versions are acceptable today in society, so. It's a good question to ask the law department of whether or not we can make that determination, or whether they have a steadfast rule that we have to abide by. But she only gets one vote, her daughter can't vote.
Oh, my daughter can vote.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Apologize.
That's great.
It's the best part of the meeting.
Yeah, we needed that.
So you're already inculcating the value of civic engagement.
Great.
Absolutely, doing my third class.
Yes. So, okay, great. So if there are no additions, may I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
No objection.
So I'll second.
Okay, so the motion to adjourn has been seconded, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Call the meeting to adjourn. Thank you so much.
We're still keeping the part of it.
Yes.
Have a good night.
Oh, no, sorry. It's not even ready. We just have a little.
Okay.
I'll sort that out.